Hey everybody, Steve Prisbrowski. Welcome to tip number 65 in the series 101 tips to ace your promotional exam. As a reminder, my website, code3firetrain.com, has a lot of great free information on it. Check it out if you haven't done so already. Also, this series is based on my latest book from Fire Engineering Books and Videos of the same name, available off their website as well as mine. So, tip number 65, pretty straightforward. Create personal expectations to share with your new crew on your first day, or crews. Crew if you're a company officer, crews if you're a battalion chief. It's amazing how many people have not taken the time to create expectations. I mean, it's amazing. And before I jump on in, I want to thank my good friend, Rainey Hannafin, who's an assistant chief with Westchester, Ohio Fire Department. He wrote the words of wisdom, or what we call voices of experience, for this tip here, to build upon what I have to offer about personal expectations. Because I bet you if you go through your whole career, just like I can go through my whole career, every boss I've ever had, whether it's working at the drugstore before I got hired in the fire department, every fire department, basically every job I ever had, I bet you of all 100% of those different jobs, different positions, maybe half of those bosses shared expectations with me. Most of them just said, hey, here you go at it, kid. You know, zero expectations. So if nobody gives you expectations, what do you expect you to do? Whatever you feel is appropriate, which may be good or not so good. And that's the unfortunate part, is good supervisors, good leaders, good managers provide expectations. You know, not micromanaging, but just giving you basic vision, expectations of what to do. I know it sounds like it's getting in the weeds here, but I think it's very critical to have your expectations thought of, because first of all, in a promotional exam, it's very common not just to have an oral interview, which you may get asked, hey, what are your personnel expectations? But another common thing that a lot of departments are doing for their assessment centers are having like a crew meeting, meaning you want to be a company officer, you walk into that room, the 2 or 3 raters, that's your new crew. That's engine 3 on the A shift. And they may say, all right, company officer, you got 15 minutes to prepare. And then you're going to walk into the room for the next 15 minutes and you're going to have basically your 2 new crew members, your firefighter and your engineer, and you're going to have to share and discuss your expectations. And then they're going to do the same to you. And then you'll have a discussion. And of course, they're probably not going to be happy to hear your expectations because they just want to do nothing at all. So you're going to have to be able to manage those dynamics in a role play scenario, possibly, or whatever. But personnel expectations are critical. You know, I remember one of my, I think it was my captain's test, no, my battalion chief's test. The first time I took the battalion chief's test, one of the scenario that I was given, it was a video-based scenario of, hey, you're the battalion chief. You pull up to station 3, and as soon as you go out to the back door of the firehouse to walk in, all of a sudden you hear some screaming from the back of the firehouse, screaming and yelling. And as you turn around the corner there, you see basically 2 firefighters ready to punch each other out. What are you going to do? That was the scenario as a battalion chief coming up to one of your firehouses. And I remember I sort of chuckled a little bit. And the panel members looked at me like, is this funny? And I go, no, I don't mean to downplay the scenario. This is a very serious, significant scenario when you got 2 firefighters ready to punch each other's lights out. I go, I'm laughing because obviously I failed to share my expectations with that crew beforehand. And the one panel member goes, you have expectations? You've thought of expectations? I go, yeah, I've had personnel expectations for my crew since I was a new captain, you know, and I think they're very critical and very important. I mean, in the simplest form, to me, the expectation should be, if there was one expectation, it'd be 4 words: do your job, comma, right. Do your job, comma, right. Because think about it, those 4 words, do your job right, should cover everything, correct? Everything. Follow the rules, follow the policies, do the right thing, take care of your crew members, take care of the public, give us an honest day's work, make things better than you found them, you know, don't do anything unsafe or stupid or unethical, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, right. Do your job, comma, right. Well, as I've learned over the years, like pretty much any supervisor has, it's not as easy as that, because sometimes people, well, not sometimes, everybody's got different interpretations of things. Just like you can't just say, well, use common sense, because We all know common sense is not as common as we'd like it to be, or, hey, just do the right thing. Well, we also know that 5 people in a row could have slightly different definitions or drastically different definitions of what the right thing is for the situation. So that's why I think expectations are critical. Because here's the thing, if you come in and you don't share expectations and then you try to hold someone accountable, what do you think they're going to come back with? You never told me I couldn't do that. Well, there's a policy that says you can't do that. Well, you never told me. I shouldn't have to tell you. Like it or not, that could be used as a defense. You never told me. So again, you don't want to get in the weeds and micromanage people, because that's not what a good leader, supervisor, manager does. But you want to have hopefully 30,000 foot strategic level expectations to share with your crew. Back to the why. I think it's critical because it helps set yourself up for success. Set your crews up for success. And then if they don't follow the expectations, you can have that discussion with them, that coaching session, that teachable moment of, hey, so what happened? Remember, back what we were talking about beforehand, like I had a good learning lesson as a captain. I had a brand new firefighter and I shared my expectations, and I was very short and sweet. It was basically do your job right, have fun, take care. Have fun in a safe, ethical, legal, moral way, take care of the customers, take care of your crew members, take care of the public, do the right thing, and pretty much leave things better than you found it. Pretty basic stuff, and keep me informed. I don't like surprises as a boss, and no boss does, but those are my expectations. And I sort of went into more detail with this firefighter of, hey, that means know the policies, follow the policies, blah, blah. Well, we're going to a call one day. He's a brand new driver and he blows through a stop sign like at 35 miles an hour on a sort of a decent, busy, not majorly busy, but a busy street. It blows through that stop sign like at 30, 35 miles an hour. And I'm like, holy shit. And like, dude, hey, what's up, Cap? I go, what the hell did you just do? He goes, what do you mean? He goes, we're going to the call. I go, you just blew that red light like at 30 plus miles an hour. Well, yeah, we're supposed to go to the call, code 3, Cap, right? What did I do wrong? Well, you ran the red light. The stop sign, same thing, red light, stop sign, well, same thing, but not same thing, same concept. He goes, well, his answer, you never told me I had to stop at stop signs or red lights. Okay, well, guess what? And I go, hey, just let's get there safely and effectively. We'll discuss it back at the firehouse. When we got back there, both of us were cooled down a little bit. I'm like, well, I guess I didn't specifically say stop at stop signs, stop at red lights, unless you've got a clear view around you in all directions, which is very rare. Unless you're out in the rural area, but busy city, suburban areas, yeah, stop, or at least slow down to a freaking crawl, because people are not paying attention in today's world. Take a look, drive down any street, see how many people blow red lights, how many people are distracted. Yeah, just because we may have we don't have the right to run red lights or stop signs, we have the privilege to ask for the safe passageway through, because that's, at least the way I understand the DMV is we can still be held accountable and liable if we kill or injure somebody because we blow through the red light or stop sign. It's not guaranteed access, it's requesting access. And it's always better to at least slow down a little bit, if not stop, to make sure that the coast is clear. Because if we get hit or we get in an accident, injure somebody or some vehicle's property, guess what? We're there to tend to them. And now that person that really needed our assistance is getting the second due, or the third due, or the fourth due, or the fifth due, because, well, the baby was not breathing. So we're hauling ass to, running the red lights and stop signs because the baby's not breathing. Well, guess what? The baby's still not breathing because we got in an accident. Now we got to check on ourselves, maybe treat ourselves for medical care. Guess what? We also hit somebody else. God forbid we don't kill or injure anybody else. We're dead in the water because we got to take care of this scene here and call or divert other resources to help us, while also making sure we can handle the original call, which may be getting a really delayed response. So he's like, well, I never thought of it that way. He goes, but you never told. I go, okay, I get it. I never told you, but now you've heard it from me. It was a teachable moment. It was a coaching session. But again, you've got to find out what works for you when it comes to providing the expectations. I encourage you to document them and share them with your crew, as opposed to verbal, because verbal, well, I don't remember that one at all. Hey, I don't remember most things that people tell me anyway, because if you look at adult learning techniques, if you go back to tip 64 about teaching classes, speaking, communication, how adults learn, we only retain 10 to 20% at the most of what we hear. So that's why documentation is critical, and again, it's just, I mean, it's not covering your ass as much as it's helping set the other person up for success. Because again, the last thing you should ever have as a supervisor or a leader is someone come up to you and say, well, you never told me I couldn't do that. I can't tell you not to do everything, but hopefully they'll be the first to say, hey, my bad, I screwed up, I made a mistake. So when to share expectations, there's different schools of thought. I mean, if you're a new company officer, I wouldn't wait more than a couple of shifts, because if you do nothing for the next month or so and something bad happens, and then you hold someone accountable or attempt to, well, you never told me. Well, hey, if it was that big of a deal, you should have dealt with it in the first shift or the second shift. I mean, I think very early on in your tenure, you should take the time to sit down with your crew, share, discuss expectations. And it goes two ways. Hear theirs, find out what their expectations of you are. Hopefully all the expectations are, whether it's yours or theirs, are ethical, moral. They all meet the department mission statements. They're not that crazy or outlandish. Make sure they all benefit the community, the public, the department, and everything else. But take the time to share those things. As a company officer, it's easy because you're there with your crew. They may not like your expectations. Well, the old captain used to let us do this. Okay, well, that was the old captain. I mean, now it sounds bad that way, but this is what we're going to do from this point on. Make sure you get their input and try to find a balance and make sure, I mean, the goal is to get the job done, get the work done, and how it gets done, unless you have a set schedule, whether you work a 24 or 48 or a 72-hour shift or a 12-hour shift, 10-hour shift, as long as you're getting your job done, that's all that should matter. But make sure you try to get the input of your crew, but also you are there as a supervisor. So that's your job to make sure that things are getting done. Talked about the who, when, where, why qualifications, which doesn't really apply here, but this Paul Combs artwork still does. This was one of Paul's artworks they allowed me to use for this tip that's in the book there. I'm not sure I can meet your expectations. I think the point here is, as I mentioned, the expectations should be realistic. They should be expectations that are, I mean, don't settle for incompetence, mediocrity, or bare minimum, but also don't make the expectations so high that nobody can attain them. Make sure they're consistent across the board with all your personnel. Don't play favorites, but make sure it's equivalent. Well, I expect more out of you than I expect out of him or her. No, make sure they're the same. Don't settle for mediocrity, but make sure they're realistic. They're, just like a goal. Goals should be measurable, attainable, achievable, ethical, realistic, all those things. That same with expectations. I mean, really, it should be pretty straightforward there. So about the only other thing I can think of, if you're going for, say, a battalion chief position, and let's say you're a battalion chief that's managing multiple companies, you may be a battalion chief that manages, like I was a brand new battalion chief. I had 7 companies. I mean, there's some big fire departments where a battalion chief might manage 10 to 15 firehouses over a big square mile area, like down Southern California. Some of the huge departments, Los Angeles County Fire, San Bernardino County Fire, Kern County Fire Department. You could be a battalion chief managing 15 firehouses, 2 hours or 3 hours from one to another based on geography and location. You're not getting out to your firehouses every day. You may get out to them once a week if you're lucky, or seeing all your personnel. But the point is, the expectations, company officer, it's easy because you're there right from the get-go. But if you're a battalion chief, it may take you a while. So what worked for me when I had 7 stations to manage was my first day as a battalion chief. I reached out on the phone, obviously, to check in with all my crews, say, hey, how you doing, guys? Look forward to working with you. Look forward to meeting you. I mean, I knew all the personnel because we're a smaller department, but I look forward to working with you, breaking bread with you and everything else. But I'd love to set up a lunchtime. So can you let me know what, over the next couple of weeks? Because again, I had to get 7 stations, and I go, how about this? How about I'll buy lunch? You guys tell me what you want for lunch. I'll grab it, and tell me a good day and time. I'll be there. And I shared my expectations in advance. I go, hey, take the time to review these as a crew, not just as the company officer, but take the time to review these as a crew, pick them apart. Again, there's nothing unethical, illegal, immoral, unsafe in there. I go, take the time, look at them, make any notes, be prepared to, let's have a great discussion. Ask me any questions. I'll try to cover the high level points, and then let me know all of your expectations of me. It's a two-way street, and by giving that to them in advance, I think it helped a little bit. And then we had lunch, broke bread for a little bit, and then, hey, and I made sure I met with the whole crew. Some people go, well, just if you're a battalion chief, just sit the captain or the captains down, or the lieutenants or company officers. Don't include the whole crew. No, that old game, telephone, tell a friend, tell a fireman. I don't mean that in a sexist way. That was the old joke of, you tell one person what, by the time it gets to the 40th person, the whole message is across the board wrong or distorted. I wanted all ranks to hear what I had to say and ask questions, and really just to make sure we're on the same page. The message gets across there shortly. Plus, I like everybody. I want to hang out with everybody, and no reason to kick them to the curb. Hey, let's all have a good discussion point. Let's talk good stuff here. Answer any questions, do rumor control, whatever. And that seemed to work well as a battalion chief. Now, if you're going for an office position that doesn't necessarily supervise crews, like let's say fire chief that has an assistant chief they supervise, or you're like in my department, deputy chief, 40-hour in training. I had a battalion chief in training, 40 hours, Monday through Friday, a captain, a firefighter, and then 2 administrative assistants. So I didn't have like a company or crews, but I still had personnel. And same thing there too. It was a good chance for me when I got there to, hey, let's have some, I tried to have a group conversation, group dialogue with everybody, and then meet with everybody one-on-one just to be able to follow up and ask any questions, answer any questions, make sure we're all on the same page. I mean, you're not me, I'm not you. Find out what works for you. On my website, on code3firetrain.com, on the free stuff link, I believe I still got some sample expectations, because again, you're not me and I'm not you. But if you're wondering what to do, Google personnel expectations, my name on it, or go to the free stuff link. And I believe I still have some company officer, battalion chief level ones that, hey, they may not all work for you, but pick apart what does. Have something. Don't be like me when I was a brand new battalion chief and I was assigned all gung-ho coming into my boss's office and saying, hey, chief, what's your expectations of me? And he's like, well, congrats on the promotion, Steve. That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. He hadn't thought about expectations. It was great leader, great supervisor, great manager, very respected guy. I hadn't thought about that, Steve. And I paused, waiting for something else to come out. He's like, no, it's a good question. He goes, let me think on that for a bit. I'll get back to you. Never did, but I'm like, okay, guess what I'm going to do in the meantime? What I think is right, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, obviously ethical, legal, above board, but I'll keep doing what I'm doing. And then if he tries to hold me accountable for something, guess what my answer is going to be? And I'm not being chicken shit about this, but well, boss, you really never shared your expectations. So how do you expect to hold me accountable if you never really, now don't get me wrong. If I violate a policy or do something illegal, unethical, unsafe, immoral, well, that's usually covered in the policy. So I can't really come back with that. But if he tries to jam me up for something that maybe isn't really that, and it's hard to pinpoint to policy or, safety best practice, then I mean, hey, you never said I couldn't do it. I know it sounds chicken shit, but that's reality. And then of course, that'll be my one time I'll put on notice. Well, now I'm telling you, don't do that shit again. Okay. You got it, boss. No problem. My bad. Find what works for you. So, all right. So ultimately, if you fail to share expectations, think about it. How do you expect to ever hold anyone accountable? Also, it also gives people a valid excuse when you attempt to hold them accountable, as they'll say, like I mentioned, you never told me I couldn't do that. Well, there's the teachable moment. Well, now I'm telling you, okay? I don't mean to micromanage you. I hope it doesn't come across the way, but don't do that again. Okay, boss, sorry. So, all right, as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Until the next episode, be safe, take care. We'll see you soon.